and this is intro number 2, and I'm gonna try and swear a bit less in this one. Welcome back to the What the F YouTube channel. In this video I speak to Shoshana, and you might know her as the Fairy Job Mother. We covered everything from how to settle into a new job role, toxic work culture, and tips for developing your career further. So please do let me know what you think. Hello, I'm Charlotte from What the F, and today I'm here with Shoshana, and you might know her as Fairy Job Mother. And today we're just gonna have a bit of a chit chat about once you get a job, what you do when you actually get into the job, because it can be quite daunting. So yeah, we're just gonna have a bit of a chat about that. So do you want to introduce yourself and talk about Fairy Job Mother?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much, Charlotte, for having me. I'm really excited to have this chat with you. I've watched a couple of your other chats with some other people, and they're really great. So I'm really excited to be on the YouTube or video series, whatever you want to call it. As Charlotte said, hi, my name is Shoshana. I run the Fairy Job Mother part-time. But also my full-time job is I work in marketing in the tech industry as a marketing manager. So that's kind of like what I do day to day. And then in my spare time, I run Fairy Job Mother. For those of you that don't know Fairy Job Mother, Fairy Job Mother is basically a platform to empower students, graduates, and young professionals to stand out and get hired. And basically, I don't know if Charlotte wants me to go into it because it's kind of long.
Go for it.
No, basically, yeah. So basically, I just started Fairy Job Mother. I started it about 4 or 5 months ago. I've been involved with like similar things for about 2 years informally, but I formally started Fairy Job Mother about 4 or 5 months ago. And basically, the reason that I started it is because when I was at school, when I was at uni, I found the career advice and guidance quite crap, to be honest. When I was at school, it was basically, okay, like, are you going to go to uni? And if you're not, you just need to get a job. That's it. And then when I got to uni, it wasn't really much better. Obviously, every uni has like their own career service and stuff like that. But the advice they give you is super generic, just because they tailor from like marketing to midwifery. And also, I found that most of the time, the people that work in these career centres at the uni, although they have a qualification in career guidance or career advice, they actually come from more of like an education background, so they've never actually like really worked in the corporate world at all. So I found it quite hard to like relate to those people. It's like, okay, you're trying to help me get a job in corporate, but you've not really done it yourself, so like, how can you help me, kind of thing. So yeah, I really just wanted to kind of merge my corporate experience with the struggle that I experienced at uni and at school, and yeah, to help people. So hopefully that wasn't too long, Charlotte. If it is, feel free to cut it all out. But yeah.
In this chat, I know you talk a lot about CVs and like the before stage, but I wanted to kind of get your insight into the after stage. So once you get the job and you're hired, I did a marketing placement, and I found the day that I was going into this job the first time, I was absolutely shitting myself. And like, genuinely was so confused, like, what do I do? Like, how do I even fit in? Because I think that is something that is so missing from education, from uni, probably from the careers office. No one teaches you how to do that. So how do you think is best? I know it's a big question, but how do you think is best to settle in when you start a new role?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a big question. I mean, I think there like are a couple key things that you can do. Obviously, before you start, it's nice to have like a good break. It's nice to have like a little break and to prepare yourself. But one of the things that I recommend before starting is kind of do as much research as you can. In terms of, like what you think your role is going to entail. So say, for example, if you're doing a marketing internship, or if you're doing a graduate scheme and you know that your first rotation is with, I don't know, the business development team, try and do as much research as you can beforehand. Maybe even reach out to your contact in HR or your manager and just say, look, is there anything I can do? Like, would really want to be prepared on the job. And like, usually they'll kind of give you something, or sometimes they'll be like, oh no, don't worry. Because usually when you actually start a new job, probably the first like 3 to 4 weeks or even a month is just training anyway. You're not actually really doing
Yeah.
much. Like, yeah, I don't know if that's what your placement was like, but whenever I've started a new job, like first few weeks, I've not really done much. I've just had to do training.
There's normally a
Yeah.
bit of like a handover period, isn't there, as well, sometimes, especially if you're taking over from someone.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly, Charlotte, like you said. So usually there's like handover period or something if you're replacing someone. And if you're like a new person, then obviously there might still be one based on who in the
Yeah.
team was like picking some of the work that you're going to be doing. So yeah, just I guess if you can you know, do as much research and preparation as you can beforehand. If you can't and you know you ask them and they don't really give you anything, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I think the first thing to like be mindful of and remember is that like you are new and like nobody expects you to know everything, especially as like a graduate and a young person going into a new job. You're so nervous. Like I'm not going to say who because they might be watching this and they might not want me to say, but somebody, a young person that I know, a young man, he basically recently started an apprenticeship, so he's literally just finished school and is going
Yeah.
straight into full-time work at 18. And he's honestly been so nervous, and like regularly he messages me like, Shoshana, like I'm really nervous, like I don't want to be that person that's always asking questions and always needs help. And I'm just like, look, you're 18 years old, like you're an apprentice. If you weren't asking questions, there would be an issue. No one expects you to know everything.
Definitely.
And it's like your first month. If you're still asking them in like 12 months' time, then maybe there's going to be a problem. So I think the first thing really is to just be kind to yourself. No one expects you to know everything. And in fact, people expect you to ask questions. And if you don't ask questions, then like there's probably going to be a problem.
Definitely.
So yeah, I would always like ask as many questions as you can. No question is a stupid question.
Yeah.
Questions are how you're gonna learn. That's how you're gonna grow and like understand the job. And there have been times in the past where like even I've been too afraid to ask questions. I've just pretended I've known something, and then when I've actually been given the task, I'm just like, sorry, like what the what the F do I do?
Yeah.
Nice little plug. Like how do I do this? And then like you just struggle for a bit, and then you actually probably end up embarrassing yourself because you go and ask a question about what you've kind of pretended that you already know. So I think that's like a big one. Another one would be like obviously make yourself known within your team and also your kind of closest stakeholders. So obviously like your immediate team probably knows who you are, but it's really important to kind of set up regular one-on-one meetings so that you can get to know your team, get to know their roles and responsibilities, and how you know how you're expected to work with them and how they see that working relationship happening. And then also not even just with like your direct team, with like other stakeholders. So say, for example, if you're in like marketing, I keep on using marketing as an example because I am in marketing and I know you're interested in marketing. But say, for example, in marketing, you're very likely to probably have to work with the sales team because sales and marketing work basically hand in hand. So you would figure out, the relevant sales team and you would meet with all of them, talk to them, understand what they do, figure out how you're going to be working with them, and also like ask them questions like, what do you think of the current marketing that we're doing? How does sales and marketing work together? Are there any areas for improvement? But basically, when you obviously start a new job, you're a completely new set of eyes to the company, right? So you are really probably going to realize some things which may seem really simple to you, but they're not simple to other people because they're so used to them within the company. So if there are things that you come in like you're like, oh, that's a bit weird, that doesn't make sense, or oh, even I think I could do that better, or I think I can improve that process. That's like a perfect first thing for you to do and a perfect way for you to have impact. And also that's why the company brought you in, like as a fresh perspective. So just remember that, and also keep an eye out for like these are things that I think could be improved. Obviously, like in your first week, you don't want to like go in and be like, this is all shit, this is all rubbish. But I think it's definitely something to keep note of, just because obviously it shows you're aware and you're learning, and that is, your job is to improve the company and improve the process and the role. So the sooner you start thinking about that, the better. Another thing that I would like to add is one thing that I've always noticed, and one thing that I like to tell people is, like, it's normal to literally, like, even if you've been there for a few months, like, it's probably still normal for you to be confused. I always say to people that I think it takes at least 6 months, at least, for you to actually figure out, okay, I'm in this company, like, this is actually what I'm supposed to be doing. Because companies are, like, so complex, especially if it's, like, an industry that you know nothing
Yeah.
about, you have to learn all about the industry, you have to learn the internal policies, you have to learn the culture, and that takes time. So when I speak to people and they've been in their job for like a month and they're like, I don't get it, it's not for me, I want to leave. Obviously, like, there's some rare circumstances where you just know, like, it's a toxic environment and you don't want to be there. But majority of the time, I tell people to stick it out, because honestly, you really don't know after a month. Things aren't going to make sense to you in like instantly after a month. It does take time, and that's also something that I would say to like anyone that's just starting out or graduating, that it's not going to make sense for a while. Like, at least 6 months, it could take you a year, but everyone else is in the same boat. Probably they just, you know, aren't showing it because people like to show off and make out they're doing, do you know what I mean? But realistically, everyone's in the same position as you as well. So I would also just add that.
Yeah, going back to my placement, so I was in a marketing role, but the company, I mean, I loved my placement so much, but the company I worked for, they made manhole covers out of fiberglass.
That's fascinating.
Didn't even know anything, obviously didn't know anything about manhole covers. I don't even think I knew what a manhole cover was. And they made it out of fiberglass, and then they also made pipes for all these different things. And I had to market this stuff, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? But then it does just take time, and you do just pick it up. And I have so much knowledge about manhole covers, it's unbelievable. So
Wow, if you're a manhole cover company that needs,
yeah,
someone in marketing, hit Charlotte up. She already has that experience. She'll be able to come in and like kill it.
Yeah. The other things I wanted to talk about, which you mentioned a little bit before, was toxic culture in the workplace. I think when you're in toxic culture, you don't always know that you're in the toxic culture.
Obviously, yeah, I do agree. Sometimes if you're in a toxic culture, you don't necessarily realize. But I guess usually, like, if it's a toxic culture, you're probably not going to be happy, and you're probably going to be, you know, feeling like something's wrong. So I would just recommend anyone that's feeling like that to speak to, you know, friends and family members or anyone else that may be working, and just like run the situation past them and be like, look, is this normal? Because if you are a graduate and if you are a young person that's new to the workplace, you probably don't actually know if that's normal. So I would just kind of cross check it with you know, people you know. I would cross check with people you know, but to be quite honest, but to be quite honest, usually, hopefully, like by all the research you've done about the company and all the, you know, interviews you've done, usually you can get quite a good insight into the company and the culture. And usually if it is a toxic culture, you actually are shown that before you actually accept the role. Do you know what I mean?
You kind of feel it, can't you? Like something feels a bit off when you're doing your research.
Yeah, like honestly, like when I was looking for graduate jobs, there was one company, they offered me a role, and the salary was like a lot lower than that I wanted, basically, because I'd done a placement year. I knew this is how much money I had earned on my placement year. So I knew I wanted to earn more than that when I was graduating. So I had this number in mind. And this company like offered me the role, and like when they offered me it, they were like, there's no movement on the salary. And I just said, okay, like, can I take some time to think about it? Because I still had a few other interviews coming up that I was at final stage for. And this company were like really annoyed that I said, can I have some time to think about it? Which, by the way, is a completely normal thing to say. You don't have to just like accept the offer on the phone there and then. Like, I was just like, can I take some time to think about it? Like, I'd like to speak to my parents, my family, and see what they think. And they were just like offended. They were like, oh, like, why would you do that? We thought you really wanted the role. But anyway, so I took some time to think. But it just, something didn't feel right, and I just needed to. So basically what I did is I went on LinkedIn and I basically looked for the person that was doing that role before me at the company, and I contacted her on LinkedIn, because obviously you can see people's past roles. And I just reached out to her and said, look, I've just been offered this role. I saw you worked there before and you left. Is there anything I should know? And basically it turns out she was like, yeah, like I left like due to mental health reasons, because they gave me so much work to do, and like I had no help, and I got in a really bad mental place, and like they weren't interested. So I was just like, okay, right, like red flag there and then. Like it already showed me a red flag from their like reaction to me wanting to think about it. So like you said, Charlotte, honestly, usually if something doesn't feel right, it usually isn't. Or if something feels too good to be true, it usually is. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, definitely. When I think of toxic culture, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is maybe like not lack of communication, but not being able to say what you think and everyone following the same thing. And like if
Mm,
you spoke out, it would be like, why have you done that? But it is difficult, like you said, like when you first get your very first job, you don't know what's right and what's wrong in a company, and you
mm.
just at school and well, even at uni, you're just told to apply for the job and then accept the job, and that's it.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And also just to add on that point, like I feel like there's so many people, especially like graduates that I speak to, some of them may be in a role and they're like really unhappy in it. And like I honestly, obviously I wouldn't tell them this because they're already in the position, but I can't, and I hope I stress it on my page, but I do try and stress like how important it actually is to, okay, if you're offered a job, that's really good, but like to actually really think about it before just accepting, because sometimes you're like, oh, I've been looking for a job so long,
Yeah,
and the first one you get, you're just like, yes, but really you need to actually do a lot of research. Is this company really for me? You know, have I met my team? If you have, do you like them? Can you actually imagine working with them? The work, like just thinking about doing the work, actually excite you? Does it
yeah,
actually make you happy? And like there are just so many questions that you need to actually consider, and I feel like most people don't, and they're just like, okay, I've got a job, yes, I'm going to do it, and then usually, or not usually, but sometimes it turns out a lot different than they expected, and a lot of the time most of that is down to them probably not really thinking it through
yeah,
before accepting it or doing the right amount of research. And like, yeah, I mean, obviously that's something that's not really taught at school, uni, so I don't blame people for doing that, but that is one of the things that I do try and educate people on my page through some of the videos that I've done. It's
yeah,
like, okay, and like, yeah, because yeah, I mean, obviously I understand that some people, like, you have to make a living and you have to work, and like you have to get a job, so I do completely understand why somebody would like jump at the first job that they get
yeah,
offered. But like, I mean, if you can get one job, like you can get another job, like, do you know what I mean? I don't
yeah,
really know how to say it. I don't want to sound rude, or because I know everyone's situation is different, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. No, because at the end of the day, yeah, you get this job, but then what if you're in it for say 5 months and you absolutely hate every single day? You're just
and
gonna
then
then
you'll
look
just
for
be
another
back in the
one.
same position that
Yeah,
you were in the first place.
exactly. So you might as well take them few extra weeks and fully research what it's going to be like and then make the decision. But I will totally hold my hands up and say that I am one of those people that would just accept the job.
Oh my gosh, Charlotte. Wow, after this
I know,
conversation, I hope you won't be one of those people.
not anymore. Not now that
Good,
I've watched your videos.
good.
So go back to when you've got the job
Mhm.
and you're in the role and you're loving it because you've done your research and you've watched Fairy Job Mother's videos. When you're working and you finally get into the swing of it, to gain more of a personal and professional development, how would you say to get involved in more things and how can you put yourself in the best position?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think kind of like what I said before, like your first, like probably like 6 months, 6 to 8 months, you're still figuring it out. And also you're basically proving yourself, right? Because I think
Yeah,
most jobs, they have like a probation period. So before actually taking on anything else and before getting involved with other things, you want to basically prove that you can do a decent job
yeah,
at the task you've already been given, right? So obviously there's always people that want to get like involved with different things, but I would, which is absolutely good and it's good that you want to, but I would just say don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, focus on actually mastering your day job
yeah,
first before you ask to get involved with anything else. Once you've mastered your day job, and usually your manager like is a good judge of that, so right, like as a like a young person, like a new person, a graduate, you should probably be checking in with your manager on like a weekly basis, and like just like whenever you have your weekly meeting with them, like for example, when I first started, I literally in my weekly meeting with my manager, I was always like, look, how am I doing? Like, how, like,
Yeah.
please can I have some feedback on what, like, how am I doing? Like, please can I have some feedback on what I'm doing well on, what I'm not doing well on. And like I was upfront with my manager. I was like, look, I want to get promoted in this amount of time. What do I need to do? And what are the steps that I need to take for me to be doing that? And what are the behaviors that I need to be exhibiting? So I think it's just like being upfront with your manager and like bringing it up, like, I know it sounds stupid, but like bring it up regularly so it's in their head. But anyway, back to my point. So yeah, your manager's like a good job of the, like how well you're doing your day job. And then once you're doing well at your day job, you know, you can express to your manager that you're interested in getting involved with other things. And you know, say, oh, like I think I'm doing a really good job at this. I've been doing it for a while. I've got more efficient at it. I've got quicker at it. I think I would have some extra time to maybe do something else.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really interested in this. Would I be able to dedicate, 10 or 20% of my time a week, or to, try out this new project or work with this team? And if you have a good manager, they're going to say yes, right? And I think that is another thing about toxic culture. If your manager like says no and they don't have a good reason, they just don't want you to like do anything apart from your day job, they don't want you to work with any other teams, like that's a bad manager. And to me, that is part of toxic work culture, because your manager has a responsibility. That is their responsibility to basically help you grow and help you develop and help you learn. So they should be number one, they should be happy that you said that, and number two, they should be supportive. And if they're not, then that's a red flag to me.
Definitely.
So I think just like being open with your manager and just being open with your manager and upfront about like what you're interested in, things you're interested in getting involved with. And once you've shown your value and that you can do your day job, your like manager is a lot likely to let you do other things because they know you can be trusted. So that is kind of like my top tip. Is really just like having as good of a relationship as you can with your manager. Obviously, like some people have difficult managers, but then again, like I would go back to like, well, if you don't have a difficult manager, then you're probably not going to do that well in that company, because again, like your manager is the person that helps you progress. Like that is the person that gives you your promotion, that is the person that gives you your pay rise. So if you have a bad manager, you're probably not going to do that well in the role anyway.
So do you want to be in that job, really?
Well, exactly.
And as well, it kind of goes back to toxic culture. You should not be scared of your manager. Like, you should not be scared of your manager. I've had so many people that I know being like, oh my God, like I wouldn't dare ask my manager, or I wouldn't dare say this to my manager. And it's like, there's a boundary between having that personal relationship and that professional relationship, but you shouldn't be scared of your manager, which I think is probably another red flag.
Yeah. And also a lot of people I know that also have said they feel like their managers doesn't have time for them. Like I understand managers can be busy, but like you're their new graduate, like apprentice, intern, like they need to look after you. You don't know, like you're new to this. They need to be there for you. And that is their responsibility. So if you feel like they don't have time for you, then I think that's also, a red flag.
Yeah, definitely. Going into a new job, you have to understand that you are going to make mistakes. That is literally part of the new job. But it can be quite difficult. And I think as well, when you're fresh out of uni or out of school, you kind of feel like you're taking on this new responsibility, and you're like, oh, okay, like I've got to be a grown up and I've got to do this now. And I think making mistakes can seem really daunting. I don't know if that's just me, but sometimes I would get so nervous before I'd even made a mistake, in case I'd made a mistake. But it is understanding that it is totally fine to make mistakes, and literally everyone does it. Like, we're human.
I've done some pretty stupid things. Like I've accidentally like sent internal emails like customers, because obviously like customers and client, on like Outlook, if you put in like someone's first name, it brings up like the email address, and like obviously there's internal people that have the same first name as external clients, so I've done things like that. And everyone's done things that mistakes or stupid, but it's just, I think it's just how you deal with them, whether you try and hide it and like your manager finds out from someone else, that's one thing to piss your manager off. That's something you don't want to do, right? But if you realize you made the mistake, you come clean, you own up, then like I think it's just how you deal with it, honestly. But like you said, absolutely fine to make mistakes, happens all the time. Just obviously try not to keep making the same mistake, because then it
Yeah.
makes you look a bit incompetent if like, you messed up last week, but then you kind of keep doing it. That probably is
Yeah.
beneficial manager off as well.
Yeah. And
Um,
if you are keep making the same mistake, you obviously need to ask a question.
mm,
So just ask the question and it'll see if
exactly.
you're making the mistake. Do you think the maybe for more graduates, do you think the job market it'll change in how people are employed, and or do you think it'll kind of stay the same?
So yeah, I think the job market is going to change.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more, remote work. And I think in terms of like job role and job location and stuff like that, I think there's going to be a lot more flexibility. For
Yeah.
example, I've seen like loads of jobs posted and they're kind of just like open to anyone in Europe. So they're
Yeah.
just like, oh, you could be based in like London, France, or Barcelona, like either of those. And like you're like the technical office that you're based at would be one of those, but like realistically you're probably going to have to go in like once a year, but you can
Yeah.
work from, so like jobs like those, I think, I mean, as long as you're in like a same or similar time zone like Europe, you can pretty much do the job now. And like
Yeah.
companies have realized you don't have to be in the office to get a job done. But I mean, me personally, I like being in the office. I think a hybrid model is the way forward, to be honest. Like going into the office, twice a week and then maybe working from home 3 days a week is
Yeah.
the perfect balance for me, because I need that, face-to-face human interaction. And I do feel like there is benefit with interacting with people physically. And also for a social aspect, it's just nice. And like with clients and stuff, you can take them out and it's just a lot nicer. But
Yeah.
also there is benefits from working from home as well. So I do think the working world and like the way is changing, and I think it will continue to change and evolve as time goes on. But the pandemic has kind of accelerated that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, I 100% agree, and I think I agree with I would much prefer to have the option of working from home and the office, because I think that again the social side of going into the office, and sometimes some days you just need a bit more structure, I think.
Mhm.
So those days when you wake up and you're just like, oh, but I think having that structure, well, for me anyway, having that structure in place, then in a time aspect, working from home is a lot better. And I think you can have more time to do things for yourself, like going to the gym. Remember that?
Oh my God, don't. I know. I literally haven't exercised like for a month. It's
I
really
feel
bad.
like all we DM and talk about is how much we miss the
I
gym.
know. I miss the gym. So just working out at home just is not the same, honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you, and I'm sure I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you for having me. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.